Thank you very much. Again, thank you for having me. Really today my topic I would focus on big data and the specific food challenges, food safety challenges that we have, using the availability of this data, as well as how do we manage our risks within the organization. So today we know that our consumers want more, they want to know more, they have more, they have access to more information, and that compliance are no longer enough. In a paper that was issued by Nielsen in 2015, it was clear that for Generation Z and millennials, attributes such as naturalness, sustainability, and nutritional soundness drives purchase decisions, as well as that they are more willing to pay premium for such attributes. For us, then in the food industry, this really means the specific quality of our raw material and the safety and nutritional content of our products. The old way of doing things, therefore, is no longer just an option. Whilst it was very linear in the past from output of which guides in terms of risk management, connected factories that we use real-time data to make decisions and react, and also get the inputs from our consumer side to drive more bespoke production and a level of transparency across the food chain. So everybody, not only us, not only our consumers, but everybody has access to more data. The 5 V's as it's referred to in the data is really a key driver to understand what is available and how it can be used. So the volume, really what is the volumes of data that's available, the velocity of the data, variety, which sources, structured, unstructured, as well as the veracity, importance, uncertainty around the data, and the value that it brings. So is it actionable? What type of information does it give you in terms of your risks and management systems? So for us to harness this big data in the value chain, you would have to look at 1, digital agriculture, what's referred to as precision agriculture today. The information available, the Internet of Things has expanded really a lot for us in terms of the information that we can leverage from in-field conditions, farmer practices, etc. In the manufacturing side is really our management of our processes, the ability to have this all the information digitalized and inputs from various sources and immediate availability of the data and also analysis of the data, and then digital consumer feedback. And this is quite well entrenched already in our organization. How else can this be harnessed? It really provides for us the transparency that we require in terms of the various inputs, both from a start of the value chain to end of the value chain perspective, and downstream a traceability that would allow fast reactions, but also proactive management. The current challenge that we have is the interoperability of the different systems. So whilst there's a wealth of information, the systems are not necessarily talking to each other, and therefore the data cannot be mined effectively. So we know that already in 2017, COVAC published on precision food safety and what precision food safety is, and how we can use Omic tools really to drive improvements, better management of our system, and the availability of the data through specific Omic tools. This helps us to understand biomes within our manufacturing environment, for instance, and how to manage it. So besides the Omic tools, there's also a lot of data available with respect to surveillance that is done. And specifically from a health management and input, disease outbreaks, etc., there's quite a few inputs that can be important for management of risk. We know that in the last couple of years, there's an exponential growth on genome sequencing and available data again, like the example of the Genome Traker. And these are, again, available data that can be mined to understand what we are dealing with in our manufacturing facilities. So how do we do this? In our manufacturing environments, we've in the past had our operating systems, which pretty much either utilizes an Excel spreadsheet or migrated to a digital system, which requires, in effect, again, download to Excel and evaluation of the data. So we moved from this to real-time CAD displays, where you have a map of your manufacturing facility. You are able to transfer the data and make sense of the data in a way that whoever manages the data and whoever needs to manage the risk is able to visualize, is able to present, giving us really a good information in terms of which are the warning signals, where are the specific areas of concern. We are able to trend effectively, and we can react faster. At the same time, for the employees within this facility, we are able to show also the impact to them and help them to understand how better to assist and really support the programs that we have in place. This further allows us then to benchmark across our different factories because we have a vast number of factories which either produce the same products, uses the same technologies, or are of a similar design. And this we can then globally access data to see how well are we performing in a specific manufacturing site or group of manufacturing sites. Do we have specific problems? And in that, we utilize whole genome sequencing then to understand the, again, as I referred to earlier, the biome within the manufacturing environment. We use this proactively to understand really what are resident strains, what are transient strains, and where do we see a cross contamination between different production plants, different areas of a manufacturing facility, and therefore have a better response plan and also a risk management plan in the end. Similarly, in terms of chemical contamination and surveillance of materials, there are multiple sources of data available. These data are either public source through surveillance programs in specific areas, countries, etc., our supplier data, and then our own data. Again, we talk about interoperability of the systems and leveraging these data because today there is not an automatic link to the different sources, and therefore requires a lot of data handling and inputs. It also requires a understanding between our suppliers and ourselves that we work together to advance in terms of the surveillance and the risk posed to our products, as well as how to manage it, and therefore requires really a strong connection and interaction between ourselves. The contaminants that we often deal with are not always regulated, and when we work across different clusters of countries, and as we do in the area that I'm responsible for, the Asia, Oceania, and Africa, sometimes contaminants are not regulated in all the countries, or they are not regulated at all. But what we do use is, again, all the data available to understand what are the compounds where there's identified food safety risks, and therefore, irrespective of whether they are regulated or not, that we act and we manage it within our manufacturing stream. The proactiveness on emerging topics is a key area that we focus on, and that is becoming increasingly important and is supported well also with data. So it's not only formal platforms of data information, but also other platforms, again, the unstructured platforms of data that becomes increasingly increasingly important for us. This is really sometimes, it's again not regulated, it's on the horizon, it's a topic of concern, it's a topic in public domain or NGOs, and these are the things that we look ahead to see what are the potential impacts and how we can manage better. So therefore, it's an active mining of what's again available widely to inform our food safety risk management. So the early warning needs in Nestle, you are well aware of the noodle issue that we had a couple of years back in India related to lead, and therefore, and also the impact that it had on not only on our business but also globally from a brand perspective. So the early warning needs are extremely important and needs to be scouted actively. You need to have the right tools, the expertise to inform your risk assessment, the decision making at the right level, and also appropriate risk management control and feedback that provides again an input as to whether it is effective or not. Our early warning, as I mentioned before, sources from various data inputs. So not only internal but also external networks. We actively look at digital and scientific publications, as well as analytical data analysis of, as I mentioned, not only our own data but also publicly available data. Issues are identified based on this, and also the severity of the issue is assessed, and then appropriate mitigation plans are in place. And again, I want to stress that this is normally things that are still on the horizon, not yet a global issue or necessarily a regulated issue, but it's something that could affect us in the long term. Also accessible is third-party food safety data providers, which is quite clear. They can partner and serve as a partner to the food industry to help us also to get the right information at the right time, and to make, again, a better risk assessment for us. In the end, what we really need to look at is to unlock the value of big data in the food chain. And to do that, the data must be accessible. That means there's understandable, communicated well with the right language and images, that it's acceptable so that it's believed by the decision makers, because the lack of credibility or the risk that the information is inaccurate or incomplete can be a major barrier. And then lastly, that it's actionable. So we can only actually do something with the data when it gives us the right information or insights that can make a difference. If we do not have this, then the data becomes, it's a lot of data, it's large volume, but it's not insightful and it's not actionable, and therefore cannot inform our food safety risk mitigation. So one of my dear colleagues has a saying that big data is a bit like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it, nobody really knows how to do it, and everybody thinks everyone else is doing it, and therefore everyone claims that they are doing it. So in a nutshell, for us, I think there are a lot of information available. It is really the key is that we mine the right data, that we take what we can action, and that when we do action, that it becomes a feedback loop and eventually generates more data that would support your food safety risk management. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Charlene. So colleagues, without further ado, I would like to move on to the next speaker. Safe to say that Nestle is already unlocking the value of big data, and it's very impressive, and thank you for sharing with us how Nestle is using data in your manufacturing processes. It's very, very insightful. I would like to now move on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Nikolay Andrichikov from Dubai. Nikolay is from Tetra Pak, the world's leading food processing and packaging solutions company. He's the business driver and services solutions for the Greater Middle East and Africa cluster, responsible for automation and digital solutions. His presentation will focus on Tetra Pak Connected Package, giving products
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you and we can see your presentation. Can you put it on slide mode?
Yes,
presentation
sure.
mode? Thank you.
Hello and welcome everyone. I would like to observe all protocols, greet my fellow panelists and guests. I further acknowledge the Southern Africa MD Stefan Fagerang for inviting me to speak here today. My name is Nikolai Andrechkov. I'm Service Solution Business Driver and I'm representing South Africa market today, but I'm based in Dubai. It's very exciting to be here with all of you today, and I'm very proud to be talking to you about the future of connected package. So your products already touch consumers around the world many times a day. Today we are going to look at what happens when your packaging become connected. When consumers start to interact with your brand via a unique code on the package, giving you a chance to engage with them and providing you with the valuable data about who they are and what types of promotions are most likely to engage them. Then each of those touch points become a data point. That's the power of connection. There are many industry challenges which you as a producer is facing every day. Like you need to increase monitoring of entire value chain, you need to improve transparency, improve quality control, connect consumers in a more efficient way, and of course reduce the waste. With our extensive knowledge of the food industry and our ambition to connect it, we are committed to help solve the challenges you are facing, to make easy the digital transformation and improve your business. So advanced technologies have the potential to help meet these challenges and change the food and beverage industry as we know it, all while providing value to your business. No doubt that you all heard about Industry 4.0. What it basically means is that right now we are in the middle of next industrial revolution, but it's digital revolution. Let's explore the impact of digitalization on the food and beverage industry. It will provide you transformative power on how connecting the value chain can create the value across all parts. So, Tetra Pak carton packaging does three important jobs. First, it's protect your products, it visualizes your brand, and communicates with your consumers. It's actually exchanging messages. Connectivity extends these essential capabilities beyond the product protection and printed communication. It strengthens the package by turning it into the media channel through which consumers can interact with your products and enjoy exciting new digital experience, allowing you to follow each package throughout the life cycle, from production through the supply chain all the way to your consumers, and even beyond, gathering valuable data along the way. So in Tetra Pak, we are building platforms which support the package evolution. We began with the codified package, which you can see on the left side of your screen, with a printed code, but it's with limited connectivity. The next phase is a connected package. So we adding the platform to the unique code printed on each package for end-to-end traceability and consumer engagement. But in future, the intelligent package will become feasible based on the complete connection on the with the Internet of Things. This will enable devices and packages to talk to each other while providing new levels of service and insight for customers and consumers. So, as you're aware, more and more consumer goods like home appliances, clothing, and accessories are being born digital. Soon, food and beverage packaging will join this list. In the future, there will be intelligent packaging where the package is the centerpiece of connected value chain. Imagine everyday event, and you are trying to decide what to cook for dinner. One day, the intelligent package will communicate with the smart appliances, for example, with your fridge. You'll have instant and accurate information on not only the stock of the products at home, but also the level of each product remaining, and it will dynamically update the expiry dates. So based on your previous experience or previous behavior, food preferences, and your favorite recipes, you will get the suggestions on what would be the good idea to cook to reduce the risk of the food waste. And of some ingredients are missing, they will be suggested automatically for replenishment. It will be time saving, it will be convenient, and it will minimize the food waste. So all you have to do is to prepare your food, actually, your meal. So we have talked a little bit about the future of the intelligent package and how connectivity can transform the future of food value chain. But what does this actually entail? The unique ID enables our customers to collect and manage the data through the product lifecycle while creating the greater transparency and traceability. In essence, digitalization is about using data for driving better decision making, not only within the production environment. I mean, what you can see, manufacturing, right? So it's across the entire value chain. Such kind of operations rely on fully integrated and collaborative systems that responds in real time to meet changing demands and conditions. With the unique ID, data can be captured at every stage along the value chain and stored in the cloud for data processing and data analytics. At Tetra Pak, we understand the opportunities emerging from connectivity and data. System integration is one of our strengths, which is important because new solutions relies on connections and integrations on multiple systems. Of course, there are some main values for manufacturers and brand owners. Our new platform offers end-to-end traceability to improve the production of the product, quality control, supply chain, and transparency. It will have the ability to track and trace the history or location of any product, making it possible to monitor for market performance and any potential issues. There are also some advantages for retailers or e-tailers because this platform will offer like supply chain visibility and real-time insights. It enables retailers or e-tailers to track and stock the movements, be alerted when the issues occur, and monitor delivery performance. So full transparency through the entire supply chain will become possible, so retailers can stock the right volume just right on time through improved traceability across the value chain and automated stock management. So shopping experience can also be enriched by providing consumers with the more information through the connected package. Our platform actually provides a unique digital identity for each package of every one of your products. But how exactly do we do this, right? So first of all, we need to ensure that it follows the highest security standards. And our platform is based on Microsoft architecture. We also use open protocols, so we are able easily and simply integrate your existing systems. For example, your ERP system or customer relationship management system. And of course, we have a capability to provide the full solution from generating the codes to providing the application for your promotions. And whether you want a solution for one product on one line or for many products on many lines, our platform is modular and scalable, so to adapt to your needs actually. Furthermore, with our unique knowledge of the food and beverage industry, we know how to make the most optimal solution for your specific needs. We cover the full plant, both processing and packaging, and we have validated this system on a large scale. There are two types of solutions enabled by the platform. Let's have a look on existing and future solutions. So first, we start with the consumer engagement with the scan and win. It's related to the marketing campaigns and promotions, so you will be able to interact with your consumer. Then product information. This allows to build the trust with the end consumer. So consumer will know what's inside the product, from which cow you get this milk. Treasure hunt. It engages consumers on the new level of gaming experience and engagement. Then track and trace. It's everything related to supply chain, how to use the data from the connected supply chain, then how you can extend your view on the products and orders and the shipments. Then the claims management, so you can decrease the number of claims by quickly identifying where there are. And of course, recall management, when you recall only packages which are affected, and it's automated process. So saying this, what I want to highlight, that Tetra Pak is using a number of digital technologies today to help our customers to improve their food safety performance, but at the same time we are piloting other technologies. This is just the beginning of what we promise is to be very exciting journey. We have already set off, we are investing in digitalization to make sure that the customer get the best possible support. We have already learned a lot of valuable lessons, and we are happy to share what we have learned with our customers actually. At Tetra Pak, we are committed to improving sustainability, production flexibility, productivity in the food and beverage industry. By making smarter of tomorrow's technologies, we aim to unleash the true power of connectivity for our customers. Thank you very much for having me today. I wish you all a pleasant day, and please raise your comments or questions, and it will be my pleasure to stay in touch with you. Thank you very much.
This is what our panel discussion is all about. How are we embracing 4.0 technologies in the food space, and Tetra Pak is actually speaking to it, and this is definitely an opportunity for us to strengthen this potential collaboration to work with Tetra Pak going forward. Our next speakers are Michelle Francis Padiachi and Taryn Daniels from the GSI, Consumer Goods Council of South Africa. GSI SA is a neutral standards body supporting over 13,000 companies and businesses globally to strengthen consumer trust and confidence in products that they buy. Michelle heads up the GS1 South African division, and Taryn leads the automatic identification and data capture, traceability, and SMME initiatives. They will share a presentation to give a global perspective on traceability, why it is happening, what is happening, and how it is happening, and the role of standards. Ladies, we have approximately 12 minutes to present at a high level the message to our delegates on traceability and the GSI standards, GS1 standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Naicker, and a very big warm thank you to the CSIR for the invite and to the panel. It's great to connect with you. And just a brief introduction, my name is Michelle Francis Padiachi. I head up the GS1 division. The GS1 division is part of the Consumer Goods Council in South Africa. So we really support all manufacturers and retailers from a CGCA perspective, and we work with the regulators to bring members and stakeholders. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. Just checking. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Naicker. And you know, the Consumer Goods Council is a neutral body, and we are responsible for bringing parties together. And GS1 is really the division that brings all of these stakeholders together. We are in 115 member countries, and our head offices are in Belgium. Now, when you look at what Nestle presented and what Tetra Pak presented, they are using the standards whether it's a QR code or whether it's identity number for your products, they are actually using the global standards. And for South Africa, I just want to let you know that we are the Home Affairs for Product Identification, and we bring together the standards, traceability standard that is very well adopted and recognized by both ISO as well as SABS and many other organizations across the world. Today, Taryn and I will very briefly talk to the business drivers for why traceability is becoming critical to our economy at a local, at a continental level, but certainly also globally, given the post-COVID-19 pandemic and how we deal with track and trace across different supply chains. We'll talk a little bit about the traceability challenges and the platforms that are available, and just tap into how we're working with regulators, whether that be with the Department of Rural and Land Reform or the Western Cape government that's trying to deal with challenges in the Western Cape for food export, because we've got to pick up our ability to track and trace products along our borders and across the continent and the world, and to be more economically sustainable. And that's really what's going to start driving traceability. In all of our digital supply chains and our digital value chains, traceability is going to become key for us to deal with the next crisis, to deal with the next pandemic, and to make sure that our food is secure and we can deal with the food security challenges. Taryn will also just tap into how GS1 serves the industries and why we believe it's important that South Africa, together with the CSIR, whether it be to the different regulatory bodies, begin to step up our game in securing what products our consumers are eating and what medicines patients are getting. Taryn, moving on. So key business drivers that we would like to talk to is that it's important to understand that today's challenges, whilst there are many systems that are built, and we're not saying take away the systems as Nestle or PAC has indicated, we're saying how do we bring these systems together to talk to each other? And that's what the GS1 standards is here to do for organizations. We have data models that are defined and clearly understood in simple business languages that we can have these systems talk to each other. So that's one of the big business drivers is the interoperability and using standards to drive that. Further, another big business driver is to ensure that challenges like listeriosis or foot and mouth disease or some of the challenges within the fruit industry. Recently, Taryn will share that we've had challenges with export of grapes in the country because the EU or Australia is requiring us to ensure that we stick to a standard. We understand how to share our data. We understand how to identify which farm it's come from. And those are challenges that we need to ensure that we are dealing with. But also the consumers are asking, all of our retail channels are a lot more consumer focused. It's not just retail focused. Whether you are buying online or on shelf, a consumer wants to know where is their products coming from. Taryn, if you want to move down, where is the products coming from? Was it sustainably sourced? And is it safe to consume? You know, my son has ADHD and he takes a Neurocon from a food perspective, and I've also got to watch what food he's eating. If that particular batch of medicine does not have a proper expiry date, and I send him to school and I know that it wasn't, the efficacy of the medication was not good, I'm unable to communicate with his neurologist that something went wrong with that batch. But because of the traceability and putting in a proper 2D mark on that Neurocon is able to keep me safe. Okay, there might be, sometimes there's challenges, but as long as I have the information that is encoded in these digital data carriers or barcodes, we are then able to track back how that information can be shared with consumers and patients. Yeah. And then from a regulatory perspective, truly in South Africa, we know, even in our FSI department headed up by Maklosa Tati, we are seeing that HACCP is driving the need for better traceability systems. We are also seeing that the master plans, whether it be the sugar master plan, whether it be the localization master plans to repurpose our economies, that regulatory compliance to ensure that we are producing products more in South Africa, but if we are importing products, what does it mean? Where is it coming from? has it been produced sustainability? What is the level of quality? Is there good demand and supply planning to reduce food waste, so that we can track if there is more consumption, where can we move it? So the regulatory compliance for track and trace is becoming key, and we want to ensure and really connect with both regulators, the stakeholders. We have Nestle, Woolies, Pick and Pay, all the big retailers or ShopRite sit on the board. We have Pioneer Foods, Unilever, and the ShopRites of the world come together because of a neutrality to understand how we're going to tackle the challenges of today and ensure that we can move our digital transformation forward. So regulatory compliance is key, food security and safety is key, and more importantly, consumer trust can only be built by having a proper identification on our products, so we can do one up and one down track and trace, and further, that we can really move towards what we think is not achievable, is end-to-end traceability and visibility. Taryn, you can move on to the next slide. And I think you can take the consumer trust with the Camembert example. Thank you, Taryn.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michelle, and greetings to everybody on the webinar, and thank you so much to the CSIR for the opportunity. As Michelle mentioned, one of the huge drivers as we're moving into a more futuristic manner of retailing and consumerism is more and more consumer trust. So some of the solutions that have been discussed by our fellow presenters this morning, such as Nestle and Tetra Pak, have shown that the power is truly getting into the hands of the consumer. Regulators are looking more and more into what a consumer deserves in terms of well-being and protection, and laws are appearing on our landscape at a rapid rate. And it's not just local laws that we have to be cognizant of as manufacturers and brand owners and retailers. There are also international laws that we have to agree to in order for ourselves to be able to maintain our export licenses. And for that reason, consumer transparency is the primary way of dealing with provenance issues and traceability. More and more as we move forward, we'll be seeing a lot of technological solutions that are going to bring the information back into the hands of the consumer. I mean, today, if any of you or most of us who have children or youngsters in our family know that they do not engage with any product first without trying to link that product's digital makeup via a platform such as Google. Not to mention, if there's a scannable piece of information on a product packaging, the youngsters are going to be scanning and looking for data and information. And we hope to believe that the information that is out there is trustworthy and is believable. The more we move forward, we'll be able to see how we can use this digital link that GS1 at a global level, our global organization, is working hard towards to bring some formality into how we really truly portray our products in a digital space. Now, we are working extremely hard, and Michelle will show you a little bit more as we move forward, to host the information pertaining to the products in our community and in our landscape, and to ensure that we not just put data out there, but we drive these according to standards, and we ensure that this information is trusted. And we've invested a lot of time and we've invested a lot of effort into ensuring that everything that is done is based on a common standard. So whether this is being shared, for example, on my screen as a Camembert cheese somewhere in Switzerland, or it is being looked up here in South Africa, if we want to fight things like counterfeits, we are able to ensure the digital journey of a product from a sustainability point of view, from a provenance point of view, from an authenticity point of view, to prove it's not counterfeit. And the beauty of our standards is that they are multi-industry adoptable. So while today's topic is about food and food safety, we are also doing a lot of work on the healthcare side for medicines, medical devices, as well as even technical industries such as mining. So truly the ability for transparency can only be met by these standards, and consumers are more and more interested every single day as technologies become more advanced. There are a multitude of challenges that we are facing as a result of the need to comply to traceability. The challenges are are so broad-based, from, you know, things like technology requirements and the cost of technology. If the solution requires that a technology such as radio frequency identification is used, there's a concern about the cost of tagging. We do know from a lot of case studies globally and participation in studies that the cost of radio frequency identification for collecting data has significantly reduced. And we are trying to make sure that we can bring this information forward and share this with our community so that we can venture more into these solutions and these technologies to be able to meet the purposes of what we want to achieve. So there's no shortage of challenges in terms of compliance to traceability, but we believe that in a community format and with our neutrality, we are able to meet some of those challenges in a much faster way. In terms of business processes, we believe that for traceability, this is one of the larger problems that our industries are facing. If you look at the supply chain of a product, thank you. If you look at the supply chain of the product, one of the biggest issues is the inability to share data in a visible, transparent, and interoperable way. GS1 standards are able to alleviate that problem, and they are able to put in agreeable formats of collecting and sharing data in a secured fashion. So it is almost like the benefit of blockchain, except what you have in the blockchain is now able to be proven and trusted. Data quality is another component of the standards, and the ability to capture data that we are able to enforce for data sharing across our users in the supply chain. And I believe that in some of the projects that we are doing, this is the primary place that we want to ensure our users adopt as a form of their traceability processes. I'll hand back to you, Michelle.
Thanks, Sharon. And just to close off, so the industry has asked us to launch a product data catalog, and everybody has talked about the importance of trusted data. So we have a catalog where all products are listed on this platform to the retailers. And for instance, you know, Nestle lists their products on this program, or Walmart or Amcar, products that come in from Massmart is listed. We are now able to then share ingredients, nutritional, allergen information in a digital way, but consistently linked through a globally unique identifier that has been the common thread throughout the discussions on the panel today. And we truly bring information together in a harmonized way. We want to say that this platform is here for industry, for multi-sector industry. It's been well received by both the healthcare industry, all the retailers within the sector, but also the big multinational producing food and non-food products. Our existing systems, Taryn, you can move on. We've just got a minute left. To the next slide, yes, we'll just talk to the broader platform. Everybody's been saying, we don't want to take away the systems. We shouldn't take away the systems we've internally invested in. What we now need to do is start bringing these value chains together in a shared value space. If you think about the SDG goals 17 for infrastructure for shared goals, South Africa and the African continent needs a virtually integrated value chain analysis and management system so that trading partners can share their data, so that if we have this vaccine or food coming into the country, whether it be chicken or poultry or meat or alcohol coming into the country, we can start seeing these various data sets talk to each other through a common methodology. So what we're indicating to all of you listening and to the panel, there is a standard that we need to start embracing to up our game as EU or the US or Australia does, where within a minute we can then track exactly where the product is coming through so that consumers can do the scan and take the data, which can be publicly versus privately shared, and then connect these various data sets together within a blockchain type stack with good security. Taryn, if you could just move to the last slide. I want to just share two things there. We have proprietary solutions. We're working with institutions like SAPO because of the listeriosis, where they have every farm traced through a unique GLN, every product traced through a unique code, and every animal also tracked from farm to abattoir and into the retailer. And we are working with the industry to bring these two, farm to abattoir and then from abattoir to the retailer. Lastly, we really want to say that we are positioned, Taryn, just one slide back up, we are well positioned to help industry to really have a truly interoperable farm-to-fork protocol for the country. And we look forward to connecting with you, moving forward. Dr. Naicker, if there's any other sessions you'd like to have with us, please reach out. And we're happy to engage your audience and the CSIR. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, Taryn.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. I think while we have innovative, transformative technologies, we are reminded that we need to ensure compliance to global standards. This has been a very insightful and educational presentation for us as the panel and also the delegates. I think one of the terms that come out of this presentation is futuristic consumerism. This is something new that I will take away with me. Our last presenter, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Yael Joffe. We are very honored as a CSIR to have her participate in our discussion. Globally acknowledged as a leading expert in the field of nutrigenomics, which has been identified as a transformative technology in Food 4.0. In the rapidly evolving discipline of nutrigenomics, she is a highly sought after speaker, has co-authored 2 books, It's Not Just Your Genes and Genes to Plate. She is currently an adjunct professor teaching nutrigenomics at Rutgers University and the Maryland University of Integrative Health. She is co-founder and chief science officer of 3x4 Genetics, and her presentation is entitled, Why Genomics Will Change Nutrition. Thank you, Dr. Joffe.
Thanks, Dr. Naicker. Do I still have the right amount of time? I wasn't sure whether we were running out.
A lot of time, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for having me here today. My talk is a little bit different, but that's probably not a bad thing to finish off. So what I want to talk about today is how genomics will change nutrition or is changing nutrition. And there are 3 different points that I want to talk to. One is that we're all different. The other is that nutrients change gene expression. And the last one is how does that impact functional food development? So let's start off with we are all different. So we're living through an interesting time of the COVID epidemic. And this is a perfect example of how we, is there a problem? Is there a problem, Dr. Naicker? Oh, okay. Okay. So we are, as I've said, we're living through the COVID epidemic. And the one thing that it's taught us during this time is how we respond differently. So we know that some people are more susceptible to getting the virus, and that's not just about comorbidities, but really even people in good health. Some are more likely to get the virus than others. And we know that when those have contracted the virus, some are more likely to have severe symptoms and others have mild symptoms. This is very much about how we are different from each other. So let's talk about what makes us different from each other. At 99.9%, we are absolutely identical in our DNA sequence. But that 0.1% makes us very different. That's 3 to 4 million places in our DNA where we differ from each other. So let's have a look here at person A and person B and what's happening with them. This is just a small example of a very small piece of DNA sequence. And remember that DNA is A, G, T, and C. So here you can see on the left-hand side, person A's got a G and a C, which is their pair, and person B's got an A and a T. So one tiny little change, or what I call a spelling change in our DNA, can have consequences. What it can do, doesn't always, what it can do is it can change an amino acid. You can see in person B how changing the letter changed the amino acid. And in person A, we are very efficient. We make a lovely enzyme to efficiently remove toxins. In person B, we're not as efficient in being able to remove those toxins. Here's a perfect example. There's a gene called GSTM1, glutathione transferase. And what this gene does, it's involved in detoxification, and it's able to take these active toxins from our body, add a molecule, make them water soluble, and help us excrete it from our body. But if you have one of these little changes, these gene variants, one of these spelling changes, This GSTM1 not only doesn't work optimally, but the entire gene and enzyme can be deleted, which will have some impact on how optimally we're able to work toxins out of our body. And those are toxins that are produced internally in our body, as well as those we are exposed to. Here's another example, TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha. We call this the inflammatory gene. TNF alpha is something we measure in the blood when we want to see if we're prone to inflammation. You can have a small change. Most people will have one of the G letters. Some people can have the A. And when you have the A, what it does is it increases the transcription of TNF alpha. So it increases the production of the enzyme. And we get almost twice the amount of this protein, this pro-inflammatory protein, circulating in our blood. So when we think about genetics, we mustn't only think about these gene variants, these changes in our DNA. That's what we call genetics. We need to think about this word epigenetics. Remember, epigenetics is what happens outside of our DNA sequence. It's the things that influence our DNA. It's the choices we make on a daily basis that'll impact our health. So one of the really fascinating areas that is coming up through nutrition is nutrients can change gene expression. And that's really what epigenetics is. What epigenetics is a series of switches. So imagine our body, we have this DNA, but really for DNA to be activated to make a protein, to make an enzyme or a hormone or a brain messenger, we need to switch the hormone on to make the protein, or if we want to stop the protein, we need to switch it off. And whether these genes are switched on or off is determined by the decisions we make. The food we eat, the pollution we're exposed to, radiation we may be exposed to, toxins in our food, which brings it back to the other conversations that we've been having, the exercise we do, the stress we're under. Here's a perfect example. Here's a bit of food. We call these cruciferous vegetables, your broccoli, your cabbage, your Brussels sprouts, broccoli sprouts. And these vegetables contain a compound, which I'll talk about just now, which is able to not only switch on genes in our detoxification pathways, but is what we call be able to switch on a master switch. So NRF2 is what I call the master switch. You walk into your house, you flip it on, and that one switch switches on a whole lot of switches in the house. In fact, NRF2 is so extraordinary that if you can switch it switches on about 500 protective defense genes in our body. So this is a very efficient way of trying to upregulate our health. In fact, there's been some fantastic research which says that if we eat 600 grams of fruit and vegetables a day, we can optimally switch on the genes that we want to switch on for optimal health. So I often recommend for patients to go and take all the vegetables and fruits they eat in a day, measure them and see if they're coming up to 600 grams. So let's talk about, I am going to be much quicker than I planned, but that's fine. Hopefully you'll get the message I'm getting across. Let's talk about functional food development, which probably speaks a lot to the topic of today. How do we take our knowledge about differences in individuals, which is the idea of personalized nutrition, precision nutrition? How do we take that information that we can't, for the future, focus on population-based dietary guidelines? We're going to have to deal with personalization at some point. And how do we build that into our food system? What are some of the short wins we can get that we can see we can optimize our understanding of the switching on and switching off of genes to be able to offer greater health benefits through our food system? So I'm going to talk about my absolute favorite subject, which is a compound called sulforaphane. This is probably like...
Yeah, so we have about 1 minute.
Oh my gosh, okay. Sulforaphane is from broccoli sprouts. And this is it comes from broccoli, cruciferous, cabbage, but it's found in these vegetables, and it is the most potent activator of the master switch of NRF2, more potent than curcumin or quercetin or lycopene or anything else that you have found in food. But there's another master switch, and interestingly, it comes from vitamin D. So most people think of vitamin D as a vitamin, but actually it's more hormone. And it also acts as a transcription factor. It's also able to switch on not one gene or two genes, but multiple genes. And this is one of the reasons why vitamin D has been spoken about in managing COVID patients. And just to finish with one last little thing is that I don't know if you know this, but if you put mushrooms outside in the sunlight, kind of sunbathing mushrooms, they actually increase their vitamin D content when they're exposed to sunlight. So those are just two examples in a very short amount of time. I've covered an extraordinary amount in the shortest time possible of how genetics can be used and understood to change our food system, to change our knowledge of nutrition, how we practice nutrition, and also how we go on to develop foods. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and apologies for making you hasten in the end. But I think this is a very, very informative and important discussion, particularly when we look at precision nutrition and hidden hunger. And I think we need to get into your website and look at what 3x4 Genetics is about. I know you offer online courses, and we can actually learn a lot from this. So to the delegates out there, to Google 3x4 Genetics, a very, very informative and important discussion to take on further. On behalf of the CSIR, I wish to thank the panelists for availing their time and sharing their insights as to how they are embracing the rapid 4.0 changes in food systems along the value chain. So goodbye and stay safe, and please continue joining the rest of the cluster discussions. Thank you. Thank you.